Hello everybody, this is the Stormy Poet coming to you live and direct on this edition of the Levels of Love Tips. I appreciate everyone for being able to join me at whatever time of day it is. Extremely glad you could join me. We're going to share some really good information today, as we always do. By the way, this episode was brought to you by rootofalllove.com and thestormypoet.com. So if you could go to both of those websites and subscribe at your leisure, I would really appreciate it. Most definitely. So today what we're going to talk about, and what I'm going to share some information on based off all that I've learned about relationships and all that I've gained from as much as I've studied relationships over the years, and based off my own personal experiences and expenses. Yeah, let's go ahead and say that too. Is what considers as accepting flaws, meaning you love a person for who they are, despite their flaws, despite their shortcomings, and the things that might get on your nerves. Flaws versus settling for toxic behavior. And the reason I wanted to cover this is because I believe that a lot of people get these two things misconstrued. A lot of people get in very toxic situations and they say to themselves, well, I know this person is doing things that are unhealthy for me emotionally, spiritually, and physically. But no one's perfect. Nobody's perfect. It's like, no one's perfect. So let me just put up with these character flaws because this person's not perfect. Right? And then there's flaws. There's things that are just kind of get under your skin, but you're like, what? This is not really detrimental to the relationship. It's not really hurting me in any way. It's just more annoying than anything. So we're going to get into that today, because I think a lot of people get those two confused. A lot of people stay in really messed up situationships because they think that someone just has character flaws versus no, this could potentially be deadly for you staying in that situation. So here's how to tell the difference, and here's what I've come up with. So what are flaws versus toxic behavior? Well, just kind of like I mentioned earlier, flaws are basically annoyances. And to a certain degree, I wouldn't say to an ultimate degree, but to a certain degree, annoyances can be overlooked. Now, what are some annoyances? For instance, someone chews with their mouth open. Someone wears green socks and you prefer black socks. Someone, doesn't, wipe the toilet seat. Ladies, y'all can relate to that one. Someone, they have some kind of quirkiness that kind of gets on your nerves, right? They play video games and get mad at the video games. They be yelling at the video games, something like that. Something real small. It's kind of minor. As long as it's not interfering with the overall integrity of the relationship, that's just annoyances. That's not really toxic behavior. That being said, if something ignores you to a level of anxiety, like it bothers you to the point where you just get anxious, or it starts really kind of getting, I say getting under your skin earlier, but really getting under your skin, really just irritating you to the point where it's starting to make you have some type of underlying hostility towards this person, then that's a different ballgame. If a person sees that this is bothering you that much and they can't give up that little annoyance, then that means that they really don't love you. They really don't care about you. That's when you should address your partner and be like, yo, I know it's a little thing, but it bugs me in this particular way a lot. Now, that's not for you to take advantage of. You as your person's lover, if you really love them, if there's some things you could just overlook them. Don't be trying to do every little thing that annoys you, and don't be trying to say, well, that really bugs me and gets under my skin, and that really just makes me get anxious. If it's something you can live with and it's just a minor annoyance, if you really love that person, you will be willing to overlook that. That's just who that person is. Nobody's perfect, including your ass. And you will be willing to overlook that. Now, if it's something that's making you genuinely resentful to that person, that's one thing. Now, if you just got a bunch of things, like everything just makes you resentful, then something's wrong with you. There's something you need to check within in and of yourself at that point. You dig? Don't blame that all on your partner. So yeah, if there's little stuff, like I have little stuff, like with me, for instance, I really don't like when someone looks at their phone when I'm speaking to them. Stuff like that. That's a minor thing. I would say it's a minor thing with me, but at the same time, it's kind of a big thing, because if it's ongoing, and I have a problem with that. But if, for the first couple of times, I'm like, yo, you like to check your phone, and if we're having a conversation, I really would like you to be intent with the conversation. But if I say one or two things here or there, and I'm not really putting a big emphasis on it, I don't really care if you're looking at your phone. It's whatever. You feel me? I personally don't put that much stock into my phone, but I understand, people are doing their thing on the phones. That's what's up. So that's not something to actually end a relationship on. You work through that, and you decide, if it's something too much for you, then address it. If your partner respects you and respects who you are, they'll be willing to change that. If it's something you can live with, don't badger your partner about it. Just keep quiet and be appreciative that you got someone with qualities that overpower or overshadow those little minor deficiencies, so to speak. You feel what I'm saying? Now, to add on to that, if there's something that your partner does that, it's starting to affect your health. Like if now let's go over what classifies as toxic behavior. That's, in my humble opinion, these are situations where you should end a relationship, or where you shouldn't get in a relationship to begin with. Now, first and foremost, me starting right off, toxic behavior is not and should not be tolerated under any circumstances. I don't care how long you've been with this person. I don't care how hot this person is. I don't care how good the sex is. Nothing is justifiable for toxic behavior. If you begin accepting and being tolerant of toxic behavior, then you no longer love yourself. And some of you are okay with that. Some of you are okay with not loving yourself. But if you're okay with that, then you've betrayed everything that makes you human at that point. You're just willing to submit yourself to another human being, and you basically have given up your own self-control and your self-humanity at that point. You're not even a real person at that point. You're just a nobody. So don't think it's cute to be like, all right, he has control or she has control of me, and that's okay because we love each other, and so what, I have to endure abuse. No, that's not okay. That's very sick and illogical. That's a very sick and illogical way to deal with life. You feel me? So the way I classify toxic behavior is anything that causes physical, emotional, or mental damage to you. And nobody, no matter how desirable they are, is worth that. So domestic abuse, inexcusable. And I mean that both verbally and I mean that physically. There's no excuse a man nor a woman should inflict verbal or physical abuse on you, because that's very psychologically and physically damaging. And the more you let someone get away with that, the more it escalates. But not only that, if you're trying to, let's say you're a person who's trying to go to school, you're trying to better yourself, you're trying to set goals, and let's say you're trying to lose weight in order to be healthy. Y'all know my stance on that. If you're losing weight to be healthy, that's one thing. But if you're losing weight to look like some type of image, that's a very unhealthy thing. But if you're a person with goals and you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to do your thing, and someone is sabotaging you or someone is making you feel bad for that, that's a form of toxic behavior. That's not normal, and that's not healthy, and that's not a good thing. That's grounds for you to leave the relationship. I don't care how faithful this person has been. I don't care how loyal they've been to you. That means nothing when they start practicing toxic behavior. Notice I didn't say toxic masculinity. I said toxic behavior overall, because the way our society is set up is it's all been designed for us to be toxic under the system of racism. It's all designed for us to be toxic and very unhealthy towards one another. But that's another episode for another time. Any type of toxic behavior, if someone's narcissistic, that term is starting to become more popularized and rightfully so. It should be. Narcissistic relationships where the other person can do no wrong and everything's your fault, that should be called out. If you have some form of addiction and someone's, my father was an alcoholic. He was an addict. And there's a difference between being an addict and admitting that you have a problem and there's, you need help to deal with it. And then there's an addict who's, I don't want help. I don't want any help. I can beat this on my own. I can do it. I can do it by myself. That's very toxic in and of itself. Someone who's an addict who can't quit or who doesn't want to quit is a better way to put it. Because as an addict, you can't quit by yourself. You need help. So someone who is unwilling to get help, that's grounds for you to leave the relationship. And the reason I want to do this broadcast is because so many people stay in toxic situations under the excuse because they don't want to do better themselves. Because let's be honest, if you stay with a toxic person, you just don't want to do better. You want to stay with a toxic person because that's easy. Forget trying to make yourself more desirable and evolve and become better yourself so that you can attract better quality males and females. You would just rather stay the same and rather stay living the pathetic life. And another form of toxic behavior is just not wanting to do better. You're just, that person's just cool with just living a life of mediocrity. Not standing up for anything of justice, not standing up for anything that actually empowers others, not standing up for anything that empowers the community. They just want to live a life where they just go to work and come home and that's it. You don't want to be with anybody like that. You want someone who is adamantly pursuing their passions, their dreams, and their hopes, who is not afraid to speak up for other people and who's not afraid to be of service to the community. That's what you want. You want a person who's unapologetic and who is not afraid to be who they really are and to basically just step outside their comfort zones. You don't want anybody who's just, I'm just going to do this job. I'm just going to go to work. I'm just going to come. I did my part. You don't want that. That's toxic in and of itself. And you also, what's also toxic in my opinion, is someone who doesn't push you. Someone who doesn't push you to evolve. Not someone who just kind of sticks with you because you're doing all right. Someone who pushes you to say, you know what, you should strive to achieve this dream. You should go out and branch out and do this. Someone who pushes you. Not someone who forces you. Those are two different things. But someone who encourages you and says, you know what, you can do this. I got your back. Someone who wants you to achieve your true potential and who sees the true potential in you. That's a real big thing a lot of people don't take into account when they go into relationships. When you get with someone, they're supposed to see the true potential in you even when you don't see it. That's real talk. You step to them like, I think you could do this, and I see. That's why, you hear the term soulmates. I don't really believe in one or two soulmates. I think you have dozens of soulmates all over the planet. But at the same time, a soulmate can step in and say, I appreciate all these qualities in you, and I see your true potential based off the qualities that you have. Someone who is not toxic, and let's say that person doesn't see those qualities in you. They might not necessarily be in total opposition to you, but them not seeing those qualities makes them toxic. Yeah, I said it. Them not extracting and bringing those qualities out of you makes them toxic by default. They should not have ever gotten in a relationship with you if they can't see those potentials in you. And if they're not helping you achieve your true maximum being, your true maximum self, they don't need to be with you. That's how I see relationships. I don't see relationships as these cutesy little social norms you're supposed to engage in just because society said so. I see them as these are opportunities for you to grow and evolve spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. That's how I see relationships. They're not little play toy things to do when you're bored or when you're lonely. So that to me in and of itself is toxic behavior. Anyways, I'm not going to take too much time on this podcast tonight. I humbly thank each and every one of you for tuning in. I am your humble servant. I'm here to disseminate information, whichever kind of information I feel is beneficial to the people as a whole. And I hope you were able to gain something from this podcast tonight. If you would, before you leave, before you cut this broadcast off or close out the window, I appreciate it if you hit the little bell on the YouTube channel. That will let you know whenever I posted something or whenever I go live. Yes, I am about to start going live. I'm about to start doing my live call-in podcast. I cannot wait to hear all of the perspectives from you people out there. And if you could do me a favor, hit like on that YouTube channel. That helps me reach other people. A lot of people did hit like on my previous podcast, and that did get a lot of additional listeners. So I appreciate that. Anybody who commented or chimed in, Candace, you know who you are. Amanda, you know who you are. A couple of the people, thank you for that. I appreciate that. To view all my podcasts, you can go to rootofalllove.com. You can subscribe actually to a payment plan to help me out financially so I can continue getting the word out, not just for relationships, but in regards to racism, white supremacy. Please check out rootofalllove.com and check out the donate link on there in any of my posts or thestormypoet.com. I will be touching base with all of you later. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll holler at all y'all later. Take care of yourselves out there. Peace.